Hello everyone, welcome to Hockeydemy. Now, this will be a lecture series consisting of total 5 videos in which we will discuss in very detail about the different types of mega projects, the teams involved in it, and what different roles, functions and responsibilities all the members of these teams carry out. So, if we talk about a medium scale project or a small scale project, then the standard structure of the bifurcation of these teams is mainly divided into 5 categories, which will be first the client team or the PMC team. The second will be the architect and interior designers team. The third will be the engineering design consultant team. The fourth will be the contractor team. And lastly, we have the supplier or vendor team. Now, all of these teams will work in coordination with each other during the different stages of the entire project or during the entire run of the project, and they will work in harmony and coordinate with each other at different successive points in that project. Now, if we talk about the large scale projects, then these 5 teams are condensed into a 3 team structure. So firstly, we have the client team as usual, then the architects and designers team. Now the rest of the 3 teams, that is the engineering consulting team, the contractor team and the supplier vendor team, they will act as one team called a EPC unit, the engineering, procurement, construction team. And we have examples for that like L&T, then Tata Consultancy and Engineering Services. So these are the examples of EPC firms. So these will be the structure in very high scale or mega scale or large scale projects. Now, there are various kinds of roles and functions that all these teams perform, like financing, auditing, licensing. Then we have the purchasing of different equipments, their installation, the designing of entire project, and the designing also includes the conceptual plans. Then we have the engineering design. In engineering also there are many more bifurcations inside it. Then we have the different supply, installation, testing and commissioning of different kinds of equipments, machineries, etc. We have the different execution of services. Then the contractors will come in at different stages. Then we'll have the handing over or commissioning of the project or any kind of service. So all these functions have to be performed at a specific time in the project, and we will discuss in detail in these upcoming 5 videos that which task has to be performed at which point of time, who will perform it, and what are the data needed in order to do that task efficiently and on time within the given cost of the project.
Hockeydemy, shaping professionals for a better future. Hockeydemy is aiming to be the world's largest learning platform for engineers and architects. Hockeydemy will help you to develop your skills in project design and management, to become team leaders and project managers in mega structure projects. Hockeydemy provides learning by high-quality video lectures in all sectors like power, industrial, commercial, institutional, residential, etc., based on 1,000 plus real projects done by our group on Hockeydemy.com. To study in detail with books, drawings, articles, and catalogs, visit Hockeycart.com. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel to stay updated on our latest contents.
So now we'll be looking at the different types of members or teams that are included in architects or interior designers team. So firstly, we have the project coordinators. Now the project coordinator in an architect team is generally a mid-management level coordinator or an architect. That is, a junior architect is not eligible to act as a project coordinator, whereas the senior architects are involved in very high level marketing or designing of various projects. So mid-level management architects act as project coordinators. Then we have the architects. These architects comprise of all the levels of architects which do the designing and planning work. Then we have landscape designers. After that we have interior designers, and lastly we have the 3D model and video makers. Now, as far as the 3D model and video makers are concerned, there are two type of systems that are currently prevalent in the market. That is, the architect and interior designer team have in-house 3D model and video makers if the firm is at a bigger level, or they associate these video makers or 3D model makers from outside of their offices, and both the models work very fine. Okay, now we'll see all these teams in detail and study their roles and responsibilities during a project. Firstly, we have the architect or interior team in architect's role. Now, starting with project data and requirement understanding. Let me mention that the project data and requirement understanding will be a common point for all the teams in the architect and interior designers team, but they will play a different role in each team. So starting with the architects, architects can be working on multiple projects at a given time. See, during a particular project, the involvement of architect is not full time. For example, if the project takes 4 or 5 years to be executed completely from the time of its inception till its handing over, the architect is not needed to be there on the site for continuously 5 years. Well, which is not the case with the site engineers. So, the architect generally do or conduct multiple projects at the same time. Okay. Now, firstly, they need to collect some project data and they need an understanding of what the client wants. So, the architect's role here is to understand the vision and the goals of the client that they are working for. So, these goals or vision generally include, in basic terms, depending upon the kind of project. Now, there are some simple or basic parameters that are accepted worldwide for every project. Say we want to build a school. Now, we can't just say that this school is very big or very large or very huge. There is a specific parameter to assess it. So, in schools or universities, we assess the size of the project by the number of students that it is going to accommodate. Say, for example, we are going to build a school for 10,000 students or 20,000 students. Similarly, the hospitals are assessed by the number of beds and the number of ICU or ventilators that the hospital is going to accommodate. Then the flats or commercial or residential complex are assessed by the number of units, and etc. for all the projects. The factories are assessed by their production capacity, that this pharmaceutical factory produces 1 million units of tablets or 1 million vials of its serum or etc. Okay. Now, the second thing they do is they coordinate with the engineering team for space planning. Okay. Now, what does this mean? It means that they coordinate with all the types of engineering teams, which includes the civil and structural team, the mechanical, that is HVAC and utility piping team, and finally with the electrical team. Now, what does space planning mean? After the client has given a specific set of data that I will be needing this and this in my entire project or campus, the architect starts laying out different kinds of blocks and boxes in the entire plan or campus area. Now, there are some special needs or requirements for all the types of machines or equipments and the man movement, etc. We'll understand this with an example. Say I want to build a water tank and the water tank is concealed inside a room. Okay. Now the water tank has a height of 3 meters and my slab height is say 4 meters. But now the water tank can be built easily right there. Okay. But now the mechanical team will come and argue with me that if in future we need to do some maintenance on the tank, then the 1 meter excess space above the tank is not enough for us. So we will need at least 2 meters of space from the surface of the tank till the slab. So now this space planning is incorporated by the architect. Considering that the tank height will be 3 meters, we'll need 2 meters of clear space above that tank, and after that I will need to leave some space for false ceiling, and then the slab will start. Okay, now this was just an example. Space planning includes many different parameters depending upon which kind of agency that you are dealing with. Secondly, we have the master planning of the campus. Now I'd like to add one more point. Now here they make a room data sheet. The architects make a room data sheet and then share it with the engineering team for their inputs. Now the room data sheet includes a room wise allocation of different materials and equipments that are to be incorporated in all the rooms that are being planned, and the engineering team will revert back that RDS with the required changes in them. Okay. Next, we have the master planning of the campus. Now, since we have collected the project data from the client, we have understood the requirement of them, we have coordinated with the engineering team. Now we can finally start the master planning of the campus. Now the master planning of the campus includes or comprises of planning the entire campus with certain blocks that are to be arranged, keeping in mind many parameters. Now the master planning has a number of elements like how many number of buildings are to be built, depending upon the type of project, of course. That commercial complex is there, then I have proposal of 10 towers, a common plot area, a garden, then a playing area for kids that is different from the garden, a jogging track, a gym and clubhouse building. So I'll need to incorporate all these buildings into my master planning. Now if it is a factory, then I'll have a utility block, the production house, then admin building, landscape, etc. So now after getting all the parameters, the architect can start the master planning. And different elements are the number of buildings, Vastu. If the client is heavy or if he believes in the Vastu, then the entire planning is to be done keeping that in mind. Then we'll also see the sun path and wind directions for the direction of entry of certain buildings, their direction of construction, etc. Then their placement will be in coordination with the landscape designers and all these things. Okay. After that, the architect's role is building conceptual planning and man-material movement. Now, what does man-material movement mean? It simply means that the architect has, or generally they do design the entire concept or entire plan in such a way that there is minimal cross junction of the man movement as well as material movement. We'll take an example for this. If I am doing a master plan of some industry or a factory, alright. Now in the factory building, I also need to provide a corridor for the movement of my men, laborers, workers, etc. And also I'll be needing to provide a corridor for the movement of the raw materials, then packaged materials, production goods, etc. So I'll need to do the master planning in such a way that these movement do not fall at a cross junction or do not interfere with each other's movement. Okay. So now in some cases it is not possible to completely avoid this collision, but the planning should be done in such a way that it is minimum up to a possible level. Now the building conceptual planning. This conceptual planning includes various conceptual planning like the services planning, the different air conditioning cables and all that, etc. So the services planning, that is, I just can't simply plan a building in a block manner. Okay. Now, building conceptual planning. So the building conceptual planning involves various kinds of services that need to be planned. The air conditioning requirement of the entire building or entire space, etc. What do I mean by services planning? So the services like mechanical, electrical. So I need to see that all the mechanical piping, the electrical conduits and cables are arranged or planned in such a way that they do not look bad in the interior, and they can be carried out in a tray junction. Next we have sun path, wind directions and machine drawings. Now, as we talked earlier, during the master planning, we need to keep in mind the sun path and wind directions of the building in the plot that we have to design in. So the sun path and wind directions always determine how much of the sun path, wind directions and machine drawings. So as we saw in the master planning of the campus, sun path and wind direction play an important or major role in designing the direction or orientation of the building. Then we need the basic rule is that we need to design the building in such a way that it gets the maximum amount of natural sunlight. Okay. Machine drawings. So the machine drawings are a specialized case. The machine drawings will be in the factories, industries and various kinds of hospitals where heavy medical equipments are used. So the machine drawings, what is the role of an architect in a machine drawing? So a machine requires a certain amount of space that is needed around it for man movement and maintenance. So we just can't plan the space around the machine just to fit it inside the room. We need to leave certain distance for movement around the machine as well as on its top for maintenance work. Next we have the detailed working drawings. Now the architect's role, all the roles till now were collecting the data, analyzing it and restructuring it in such a way that it fits to the requirements of all the clients as well as the engineering team. Now the actual work is that they need to provide us with detailed working drawings. Now keeping in mind all the above conditions and all the above parameters, the architect's role is to design the working drawings of all the kinds, that is the civil master planning of the campus, of all the individual buildings, then structure. The detailed structure will be of course given by the structural engineer. They just need to leave a scope for it. Then mechanical and plumbing drawing, then folded elevations, etc. Okay. So all in all, in this slide we saw that an architect, the role of an architect is mainly collect and analyzing the data from the client, that is understanding his needs and requirements and his vision from the project, then coordinating with different engineering teams involved, master planning of the campus or master planning of the building, then giving the detailed working drawings based on the information collected. Also, one more point I'd like to add is that in master planning of the campus, while doing the master planning, architects generally leave a space for future expansion scope. That is, if we are building a school for 10,000 students, then the architect will leave a space for a building that is not in the project right now, but if in future we change our mind and want to build something in the space, then we can. Also in factories, this future expansion scope is given that, say today the production capacity is X bottles per day and I want to increase it to Y. So if I have the space, then I won't have to buy a land at a different place. That's all. Okay. Now moving on to the next slide, we have the architect interior team, interior designer's role. Okay. Now the interior designer role is firstly, as I said, all the architect teams need to collect project data and understand the requirements of the client. Now the interior designers collect different types of data, like what is the kind of finishes that you need, then what do you want this space to look like, what color palettes do you want, and all these things, what kind of flooring, what kind of furniture for complex or office do you need, etc. Okay. Then next step is area wise finishing schedule and room data sheet. A room data sheet for interior designer looks somewhat where he or she will provide the client with one table of the room and the elements that are included in the room, and second will be the materials that are to be used. So let's take an example that I give a room data sheet to my client and I am working on the interior project for an office. So the client will need to fill out the entire sheet for me, that what kind of laminate do you want in the furniture, or do you even want the laminate, or do you want to go for veneer, then what kind of conference room do you need or do you wish to build. Say the tabletop of the conference room should be wooden, it should be Korean finish, or do you want to put a marble stone or granite, etc. Then what kind of flooring do you want, wooden flooring, what kind of tiles or carpet flooring, etc. Then what kind of finish or look or what kind of color palettes do you want to use, if you want to go for this shade or that shade. So all these things are to be filled out by the client and then they are to be submitted to the interior designer, which is called area wise finishing schedule or room data sheet. Next, we have conceptual furniture layouts. Now, during the entire run of your career, you will meet very vast majority of clients who will have very different mindsets. So, some clients will be very specific and very clear in what they want, while some won't be clear at all. So, they will ask you for your suggestions that I don't have any idea and what should I do for this or that. So the ones who are clear are very good to deal with, but the ones who are not, then we need to provide them with various types of layouts and various types of plans and options of the furniture, that this would look good, this combination is good for your office, this combination aligns with your like and taste. So their main role is to cater to the needs of the client that they are working for. So here they propose some different types of designs or concepts that are relevant in the market right now, and they can do this by giving them 3D models of the interior in SketchUp or 3ds Max, etc. Or they can simply show them the existing designs that you have worked on in the past and all that things. Okay, so this was conceptual furniture layouts. Next role is coordination with MEP team for space planning. Now, what does an interior designer have to do with the MEP team? So here we will understand that an interior designer needs, the main role of the interior designer is to make the space look as good as possible. Now, take an example that we are building an office complex. Now, there are say 50 employees on every floor of the office. Of course, there will be many computer systems in the entire office. We will have many communication lines, the EPABX, we will have the CCTV, their wiring, we will have multiple ACs, maybe it may be a split AC or a centralized AC system, so their ducts we have to conceal off. So the role of interior designer here is to coordinate with all the MEP agencies or the MEP team for space planning. So he or she will coordinate with the MEP team that these quantity of cables or conduits or pipes will be going from this area. So the interior designer will plan the entire space in such a way that all these utilities are perfectly aligned with the plan, as well as they are not visible to us on the naked eye. So they are either concealed off or they run through the false ceilings. So the role of interior designer here is to coordinate with them for space planning. Now next, we have material selections and sample preparations approvals. So as we discussed earlier, the interior designer will select various types of materials after talking to the client and understanding their taste in different materials. Then after selecting the materials from the vendors, they will get it approved from the architect or the principal architect that is working on the project. Then after approval from the architect, they will show these materials to the client directly, and upon approval and selection from the client, they will order these materials for all the interior work. Now this doesn't get completed in just one go. It will take some to and fro from the architect and the client as well. So the interior designer will provide them with various types of options and combinations, that these materials are good, that these are trending in the market right now, etc. And after finalization, the execution is started. Finally, we have 3D and walkthrough presentation and working drawings. Now, the architect has already provided us with the working drawings or detailed drawings, but those detailed drawings are just plans and elevations sections of the structure that is to be built. But the interior designer will provide us with a 3D model of each and every room or each and every space that is to be designed in the project. They will also make walkthrough presentations for this, and they will provide us with working drawings. Now mainly these 3D views from different angles and different elevations, they give us a very realistic look at the future of our project, where the materials that the client and architect have approved, how will they look actually if implemented on site. And they will also provide us with a walkthrough beforehand, before even the structure has started its execution. So if the architect or the client want to make any changes, they can do it beforehand and before the execution. Okay, so in summation, in this slide we saw the different roles of the interior designer, which is in the architect and interior designers team. So in summation, we'll have that firstly, they are needed to coordinate continuously with the architect as well as the client. They need to collect all the types of requirements or data from the client. Then they are supposed to select different kinds of materials. They are supposed to coordinate with all the MEP team and different furniture agencies and all the agencies that are involved in the interior work. And finally, they also provide us with the 3D and walkthrough presentation and working drawings. I hope you are getting all the points that we are discussing till now. Okay. Now moving on to the next slide. The architect interior team landscape planner's role. Again, the first role of the landscape planner is data collection and requirement understanding. So landscape comprises of a very major part or high chunk of any project, because say if we are building any campus or any residential plot or complex, then landscape will be a major part depending upon the FSI of the plot that you are doing your project on. So the main role of the landscape planner is to make the place look aesthetically pleasing to the viewer as much as possible. Now there are some different kinds of there are some different kinds of expectations from the clients regarding the landscapes. There can be many elements that can be used while planning a landscape. Again, the landscape comprises of a major portion of the entire project cost. So the landscape planning can be very crucial in some projects. The role of the landscape planner is to mainly study the atmospheric site conditions, like what kind of local trees are available in that area, what kind of local flowers are available, what is the color of these flowers and trees, etc., and how will they look if planted equidistant. And also they are needed to study the soil strata conditions in that area. After that, we have the conceptual theme set from Google Earth. Now, what does this mean? All the sites have very different composition of contours. Okay, a site may look very different to you when you visit it, but there are many projects that have been done till now whose main target is to look very good from the space view or from a drone view. So here, now this is very specific to some clients only, where if they want to do some such kind of theme, then they will go for it. Now in these themes, the landscape planner will do some specific kind of a landscape that will show some kind of art or some kind of figure when viewed from the Google Earth view or from the space view. Now the most famous example for this is the Dubai Now, the most famous example for this. Now, the most famous example for a conceptual theme set from Google Earth are the Palm Beach and the Dubai, UAE. So, that is an artificial piece of land constructed inside the sea, Dubai Sea, and when viewed from the space, they depict or present us with a flower image. So, such kind of concepts are taken and they are executed in the landscapes such that they show us a specific kind of flower or some kind of design, etc. From when viewed from the space. Another example is the Science City located at Ahmedabad in Gujarat, India. Now they have constructed the entire park in such a way that when viewed from the space, it shows us a hexagonal or beehive design. So the paths for the tourists are made in hexagonal patterns. Okay, so some specific clients will demand that the landscape is to be set in such a way that a conceptual theme should look when viewed from space. Now next is the master planning of campus or infra with elements like stones, sculptures, outdoor equipments, water body, pathways, hillock, contours and nightscape with lighting. So all these are different kinds of elements that can be used while planning a landscape. So different kinds of stones or pebbles can be used. They generally use some white marbles which are polished from the outside. They also use some coloring stones so that they look pleasing to us when viewed from a distance. They can use some sculptures of some clients put their forefathers sculptures in their campus. Some put a figure of national importance, etc. Then outdoor equipments like a gazebo or park benches. Then water bodies like lily ponds and fountains. Different kinds of pathways with different coloring rocks for like paver blocks arranged in alternating patterns, etc. Hillock. Then sometimes they play with the contours also. So in contour they plan it such a way that if the site has an uneven contour naturally, they will mold it in such a way that it will look like a wave in some form. Then nightscape with lighting. Now nightscape with lighting is a very specialized concept. So Similarly, as we saw the conceptual theme here, the same themes will not be visible to us at the night time, right, from the space. So what they do is, in coordination with the electrical team or electrical design consultant, they will set some different kinds of modes of lighting such that when a specific mode is turned on, then they will present us with a different mood or ambience, and it is called a nightscape. Alright, we can understand this with in some flats or some houses there are some 3 or 4 modes of lighting in a specific room. Say if I want to do some social gathering, then the light will be bright white and mainly where people can see each other, right? Then if I want to watch movie or something in the same room, then there will be a very mild lighting. Then if I want to conduct some kind of party or something, then strobe lighting or disco lighting will be there. So in the same room there are almost 3 to 4 modes of lighting. Similarly, the entire thing is done at a very large scale in the outdoors. So the landscape planners create almost 5 to 6 or say 10 modes of lighting which are visible from the space, and again they highlight the same structure that they were highlighting during the daytime. Now summing up this slide, we saw the landscape planner role from the architects team. Their main aim is to make the landscape as aesthetically pleasing as possible. One great benefit of landscape planning is that it uplifts the entire value of the campus by a high margin, which is sometimes people can't comprehend that margin. Alright, then they can also set some kind of conceptual theme. They use different kinds of structures like stone sculptures, bollard lighting for highlighting the pathways, contours, nightscapes, etc. Now moving on to the next slide. Finally, we have the architect interior team and 3D models and video makers. Now 3D model and videos are made with softwares like, I'll just read out the list first of all: AutoCAD, Revit, Beam, ArchiCAD. Now this set of software is generally used for creating or mapping the entire project in 2D views, mainly to the 2D views, that is the plans and elevations and sections at different points or sections at different points were needed. Now Revit BIM is a software with many applications. So Revit software can also be used for doing structure work, for architectural work, for mechanical design, etc. Now the main feature or distinguishing feature of BIM is clash detection. So while you are making the 2D plan and elevation, the software automatically builds a 3D view of entire project, and they will tell us if the services in the plan and elevation are not matching up, that is some kind of clash is happening. So that is the Revit BIM, and finally ArchiCAD. Then the next set of software we have is SketchUp, 3ds Max and Lumion. Now these softwares are mainly used for building 3D views of the given structure or a given project, and we can also make a 3D walkthrough through these softwares. Next we have Photoshop, InDesign and Illustrator. These softwares are mainly used for enhancing a still photo or a still image, that is we can draw up a view from the above softwares and we can enhance it or beautify it using these softwares. Then we have Filmora and Adobe Premiere Pro. These are just 2 examples of the video editing softwares. There are many more video editing softwares that are available in the market. Finally, we have a physical model or 3D printed models. Now these models are mainly used to showcase a project before it's being made, or a very heritageous site that is made. So it is either used to showcase a project that is to be made in the future, or it is used to showcase a building of some kind of historical significance or importance, or very famous building. Alright, so the physical model is either 3D printed, or they are specially made by order, and they are put in a glass shelf and display for various viewers to see. So this sums up for the 3D model and video maker's role. As I mentioned earlier, the architect or interior team may have these personnel in-house, or they can associate from outside. Both the models are widely spread in the market right now. Now moving on to the next slide, we have the architect interior team project coordinator role. Okay. Now the project coordinator from the architect team will generally be a mid-level management architect or mid-management architect, as I mentioned earlier. So the entire role of this person is to coordinate with the client and deliver the or be the point of contact between their firm and the client. Now generally this is not the case for all the teams, but generally the person who acts as a coordinator will coordinate almost major parts or major projects that are going on at the architect firm. So he won't be involved directly in the designing as other architects are involved. So his or her main role will be just to coordinate between the client and provide the architect team with the client needs. So we'll look into detail team working coordination with engineering team for space planning and service routing. Now, as we discussed earlier, the project coordinator here will coordinate with the engineering team. Now, this engineering team will comprise of all the engineering teams, including civil structure, then electrical, as well as mechanical. Okay. Engineering team for space planning and service routing. The project coordinator will coordinate with all the kind of engineering team or engineering consultants, that is the civil engineers, civil engineering team structure, mechanical, electrical. Mechanical will comprise of HVAC and utility piping, etc. So their main role is to coordinate with these agencies or teams for space planning and service routing. Now, what does space planning mean here? The architects need to provide a certain amount of space or pathways for these teams to execute their piping work, or for electrical engineers, their entire laying of cable and conduits. So, the coordinator here will bring on this information from the engineering team and pass it on to the architects who are actually designing or planning the entire master plan of the building. They also look after the service routing, that all these services that are mentioned. So they will be looking after arranging a proper route so that they can avoid collisions, and in future, if the maintenance is needed, then the maintenance can be done with minimal amount of damage. Next, we have material supplier for samples and approvals. Now, the architect team project coordinator will also keep in touch with the supplier of different or various kinds of materials. Then this coordinator will then work in coordination with the interior designer at this team, so that the interior designer gets the different kinds of materials that he or she has ordered or intended as per the client, and then they will look after the entire supply of material, and also look up to their quality and time of delivery, which are to be further passed on for samples and approvals, as we have talked in the interior designer slide. Secondly, we have the suppliers for equipment incorporation. Now, the project coordinator will also keep in touch or loop in with the suppliers for different kinds of equipments. Now, different types of equipments or machineries have their specific installation space needed and specific man movement or maintenance movement around them, which has to be incorporated by the architect in the designs and plans. So the project coordinator will get all this data from the suppliers and then pass it on to the architect so that these data can be incorporated in the drawings. Next, we have client for layout approvals and MOM. Now, all the work that is being done, that is the architects doing the master plan and designing or preparing the drawings, then interior designer doing the materials and preparing different kinds of interior options, the supplying work. Here they will coordinate, and here they will concern with the client for different kinds of layouts and their approvals as given by the architect team, and also record the minutes of meeting of all the meetings so that the communication can be documented. Now, if the client suggests some kinds of changes in this layout, say he doesn't like the orientation of some kind of room or building, then the coordinator can pass on this information to the designing team at the architectural firm. Next, we have the contractor for execution of work as per drawings. Now, once the architect team has submitted all the drawings to the client and the plans have been approved by the client, then the contractor comes into picture. The contractor then starts executing the work as per the drawings that are approved. Now the coordinator here will look after that all the work is done as per the given drawings, as per the details given by the architects. So this is generally monitored in the weekly meetings, where the architect coordinator, then the project coordinator from the client, the contractor, the engineering team consultant, coordinator, all of them will be present at the site, and the architect coordinator will look after that the work is done as per the drawings and specification as provided in the drawings. So this brings us to the end of the entire architect and interior team that is involved inside a project. So in summation, we saw the project coordinators, the architects themselves, the interior designers, the landscape planners, and finally the 3D model and video maker.